people have heard of or familiar with Firearms? That's great. How many are familiar, know that they have a plant in Jasper where they assemble the pistols? Great. Well, this last week, myself and Eddie and a friend of mine, we had the opportunity, got invited to go up, visit with them, had a real good visit. We met Scott O'Brien, who is the head of Firearms here in America. We met Einer Hoff, who is the customer service and sales rep. And they wanted to come. They had prior stuff going on, but they are donating a pistol to BamaCarry that we'll decide how we're going, but we'll be having a drawing for that. It'll be statewide here in the near future. It's a Steyr C9 A1 pistol. They're striker fired pistols. So if you're not familiar with them, go to Firearms. Try to read up about them. Everything that you hear, they're real good pistols. So we want to support them because they're wanting to support us, and hopefully we can come have a relationship with them to where they can be a part of our group. But again, good to see everybody, and thank you.
Good deal. Thank you, Mike. This next lady never fails to pump us up on the Second Amendment. She's a shooter and a rider, and just an all-around great speaker and person. She's no stranger to BamaCarry. So Beth, would you come on up and grace us with your presence here?
Thank you all so much. It's always so great to be back with BamaCarry, my fellow gun nuts, right? As y'all remember. Yeah, give yourselves a round of applause. Gun nuts are awesome. And like I said, as long as they're nuts from the same tree, I'm good to go. So I really appreciate y'all. This is actually my third convention. So that's really awesome that you guys invited me back. I truly do feel honored to be not just with gun nuts, but with people that I've gotten to know, people that I admire, people that I would call friends, people I would call groupies. Oh, there he is, number one groupie right there. Okay, it's kind of an inside joke, but it keeps on going.
What gender are you?
Exactly. But thank you so much again for the honor of being with you guys today and having the chance to hopefully keep you guys alive and awake before lunch. I always get that spot. It makes me very nervous because I got a lot of growling tummies and hungry folks staring at me, and it makes me feel like, okay, I better do a good job or I'm going to hear about this all during lunchtime when I just want to eat my sandwich or whatever it is and be done with it. But again, thank y'all for this opportunity today. Maybe I'll be able to challenge you guys just a little bit and hopefully kind of add to the awesome content that we heard earlier from Michael and from Dan. And I really appreciate them and what they do and their vision and passion, because I think, we all have different abilities and talents and skills, and we all have different ways of reaching people. And I think all together, all those different methods and tactics are going to be beneficial across the board, because we don't all do this the same way. I always like to say, I'm just the mom with a gun. And yes, I do have two. See, moms, see, ladies, you can dress, just like you normally would, and you can have firearms on you if you don't choose to open carry. And most of the time I conceal carry just because that's the best way for me in my lifestyle. I also work for the U.S. Concealed Carry Association, but we love our open carriers just the same, so don't feel like that's going to leave you guys out of the whole process there. But I wanted to start out today with kind of a weird story, if you will, or something to consider. I don't know if any of you guys have watched YouTube lately, and actually over the last couple of years. There's this gentleman out there, I think his name is J.P. Sears, very strange guy. He's got like this really long red hair, and he wears like a strange kind of like hippie-looking bandana. Does anyone know who I'm talking about? He does a lot of like parody videos, a lot of tongue-in-cheek things about, oh, you name it. I mean, he has done something about guns and gun owners, which wasn't really the most comfortable thing to watch. But he's done some other funny things about, oh gosh, millennials, about relationships, and one that kind of stands out is he did this kind of parody about vegetarians. Okay, I'm not a vegetarian, mostly because I'm a super picky eater. Maybe I'm a desertitarian. Maybe that would be the way to kind of, I don't know, categorize myself. I could live on desserts. But he was trying to show how kind of awkward or weird it can be sometimes when you're speaking with, conversing with, living with, eating with someone who is a vegetarian. And nothing against vegetarians, but it's kind of a really funny parody where he is acting like what a vegetarian would be, only he's a meat eater. So he goes through this video, and I see some people laughing and nodding, you've seen it. He's like, well, you know, I'm a meat eater and this has to be meat or I can't be at this restaurant. And he just goes on and on and on about the specifications of what it's like to be a meat eater in a world of vegetarians, right? Okay, so the reason why I bring that up is because it kind of got me thinking about the way anti-gun folks talk about firearms all the time, right? They have an agenda, and they have like a very specific kind of way to get at people. And I thought, you know, what if the tables were turned? What if us gun-loving folk picked a topic and talked about that the way they talk about firearms? And this is not even a God-given right, but I looked at it as if, and I don't want to offend anybody, but what if we dealt with it the way people deal with firearms and we talked about swimming pools? Think about that. Think about the conversation if you were an anti-swimming pool person. Okay, so I kind of created this little parody that kind of deals with how we would treat others or they would treat us if we had the god-awful, horrible, very dangerous swimming pool. Okay, so y'all bear with me and just listen how this conversation might go. Wow. You own a swimming pool? Okay, you know, I never knew. I never knew that you, of all my friends, would be the kind of person to own a swimming pool. Yes, that kind of person. I'm shocked. It's so irresponsible. A swimming pool? Why would you need a swimming pool? It's dangerous. Don't you even know how dangerous pools are? Do you realize how many people die every year by pool? Think of the children who die. Think of your children. How are you going to keep your children safe? I mean, you're willing to sacrifice their safety just so you can take a dip now and then? Is that worth it? To know that someone could die any moment in your pool? I can't imagine having a swimming pool at my home. Just knowing that this death liquid was lurking outside the back door 24/7 would be enough to make me a nervous wreck. I mean, really, have you even watched the news lately? Have you seen how many pool deaths there have been? How much pool violence there is? I bet you know tons of people who have family members or loved ones who have died by pool. Or maybe you personally know someone who died this way. Think about it. How do you think they would feel if they knew you had a swimming pool? You realize that you're jeopardizing yourself and your family. And I'm not sure I can ever come to your house again. In fact, I'm not really sure we can be friends. I don't want to be around someone who owns a pool. Pools cause deaths. Thousands of deaths every year. The CDC reports that every day, 10 people die by pool. And out of those, 2 children under the age of 14 are dying by pool every day. If we could save just one person, wouldn't it be worth it to get rid of the pools? This is common sense pool regulations. Common sense. Don't you care? I mean, does it not bother you that children are dying every day? It's so selfish. There are more than 10 million pools in America right now, and I'm not even talking about hot tubs. And do you know how easy it is to get a pool? You can buy a pool just about anywhere. It's easier to get a pool than it is to buy a book. That's right. You can even buy one off of Craigslist without a background check. And of all these pool owners out there, how many of them do you think have taken pool safety classes? Seriously, this is ridiculous. I mean, 25% of pool owners 25% use pool covers. That's it. The rest of the 75%, they don't even have pool safeties. None. Zero. It's terrible. I feel sorry for you. I wish you'd open your eyes to the truth. I wish you would see how horrible swimming pools are and how valuable life is. It's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. Common sense pool control. Now, I realize that there is no death, accident, or otherwise that should be looked at lightly. But I give you this example because this happens all the time. And I know pools and guns aren't the same thing. I realize that. I think I'm speaking to people who are smart enough to figure that out. But if we turn the tables, if we had conversations with folks that are so anti-gun the way that they have conversations with us, that's about how ludicrous it would sound. Really. And it's not fair, and it's frustrating, and I know that all of us are kind of in the same kind of line of thinking. Unfortunately, there's all those kinds of facts and figures floating out there that people want to use against you. I mean, listen to this fact. Oh, this is a good one. Fact. Did you know that water can be chemically synthesized by burning rocket fuel? Fact. Overconsumption of water can cause excessive sweating, urination, and even death. Yeah, it gets worse, folks. Fact. 100% of all serial killers, rapists, drug dealers, and terrorists have admitted to drinking water. Look it up. Look it up. Fact. Water is one of the primary ingredients in herbicides and pesticides. Fact. Water is the leading cause of drowning. Okay? And fact. Y'all listen to me now. Fact. 100% of all people exposed to water will die. You see what I'm saying here? Are all those facts? Yeah. Are they ridiculous? Yes. So be careful of the facts that the anti-gun crowd want to use against us. They might very well be facts, but they make zero sense. Or it's such an overgeneralization or a logical fallacy that it's just preposterous. And today, for the remainder of my speaking, I want to talk about some of these weird myths, misunderstandings, not necessarily from the anti-gun side. I think the guys kind of tackled a lot of those, and you can read a lot in Dan's awesome books. I want to talk about some of the things that we're perpetuating. Dun, dun, dun. Uh-oh, now you feel a little bit like you're in church, and you're in the hot seat, and you're being challenged by the pastor. Well, okay, like I said when I started, I hope maybe today you do feel at least a little bit challenged or inspired. Maybe that's a better word. I don't want to challenge you. I want to inspire. I want you to take some of this and either maybe rethink something that you're doing or saying, or apply something to your life, or try something maybe you haven't. That's the whole point of this, because I don't want us to feel on the spotlight all the time or in the spotlight all the time being thrown all these quote-unquote facts that are just so absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so let's look at some of these misnomers, these myths, or these other things that are floating around out there. How about this one? Gun owners are all old, conservative, white men, typically Republicans. Fact, right? Is that a fact? All gun owners? Ooh, watch that absolute word, right? Ooh, all? No. And you know what? That's a real big thing that sometimes we have an issue with. Guns are not political. They shouldn't be political. We just talked about it before. It is our natural right, God-given, to protect ourselves. Does that mean liberals don't have a right to protect themselves? Democrats don't have a right to protect themselves? Only Republicans and conservatives do? Absolutely not. And you know, I don't want our passion for guns and self-protection and responsibility and safety to overpower all those other things. Do you know that the largest growing segment of gun ownership is still female? And not just female, minority female. Y'all look around this room right now. Anyone's minority females? Anyone? Okay, that's the largest growing group, people. Where are they? Why are they not here? Why? We need those people here to help perpetuate what we're trying to share, the messages we want. And it's not a Republican thing. It's not a conservative thing. In fact, me personally, I don't want my belief in the right to protect myself and my family to be something divisive. Once we put it in the political category, it automatically becomes divisive. Because people have picked sides and they're passionate about it, right? I'm a very passionate Republican conservative. Okay, fine. But I don't want that to divide me, separate me, or keep me away from the minority female who needs this in her life. Our gun passion and ownership should be what brings us together, what unites us. I don't care what your background or your belief or your sexual orientation or your 27 gender choices are. Believe me, I have learned a lot in these last few years because of the organizations I've been a part of. Guns are not political, and they're not old white Republican conservatives. They are American. Right. They are American. And yes, I will admit to you, this was not part of my presentation, but I don't care. I'll admit to you, sometimes I get really uncomfortable because I work with people that do not believe what I believe, do not have the moral or foundational values that I cherish and live by. But I have learned that it can become an unlikely brotherhood or an unlikely sisterhood where we can come together because of our support of our Second Amendment and the right, the natural God-given right to protect ourselves. Think of that. And think about what a difference that makes too. My husband's two aunts are extraordinarily liberal. Like, we don't want to have Thanksgiving dinner with them. Okay, it is bad. It is bad. It's like World War III every single time they get together with sometimes my father-in-law, and I just bite my tongue, and there's so many things I want to say, but get this. They know what I do for a living. They know that Sean and I compete competitively. I mean, we shoot competitively. They know that we own maybe 1 or 2 firearms, 1 or 2. They know that we teach our children about guns and gun safety. If any of y'all have a chance to go to my Facebook page, Pacifiers and Peacemakers with Beth Alcazar, watch the video we did with our kids and tell me that education and training doesn't make a difference, okay? But these two very extraordinarily left-thinking, liberal women, both of them approached my husband and I, and guess what they wanted to know about? Firearms. Guess what they wanted to do? Go shooting, buy a gun. Oh, no! Or, I don't know, celebration. They're going to cross over to the Republican conservative side now, right? Not a chance. But again, lo and behold, of all of our differences and all the things that we can fight about, look what brought us together. The natural ability to protect ourselves. They might not believe God gave it to us, but they do believe it is their right to do so. Amazing, isn't it? And believe me, again, in the circles of folks that I deal with, the DC Project is another good example. For 3 years now, I've had an opportunity to go with the DC Project. This is a group, it's supposed to be a group of women, grassroots organization, one woman from every state going to Washington, D.C. all at the same time to talk to our representatives. And y'all, that is one of the most scary things I have ever encountered in my life. I hate going, but I do it. I absolutely abhor it, but I go. And I stand with these women who often don't believe anything I believe. And we support our right to keep and bear arms. It's amazing. Y'all, one of the ladies, I use the term loosely because it's a transgender. We probably have Zippo in common, except for the fact that she believes her right to protect ourselves with firearms. And again, unlikely sisterhood. I have nothing else to talk about in her world. Nothing. One of the ladies that I teach with often all across the country, she's very outstanding about her lifestyle, her wife, and you can kind of make some generalizations and assumptions just based on that. I don't agree with anything on that side of her life. I really don't. That's just who I am. But guess what? We successfully come together as sisters in arms to share to people how important this right is and why we must support it. And I see this happening all across our nation. I see groups coming up that are not conservative, that are not Republican, and yet they are fighting right alongside of us. Don't overlook that side. Those people that aren't exactly like us. Because we can find that common ground and make a huge difference. I'm watching it happen all the time. Okay, what's another myth? How about this one? Gun-free zones save lives. I can guarantee that is not one that we're perpetuating. This floors me that people sincerely believe that putting a sign up on the door that says no firearms will deter the violence, will deter the mindset of a deranged individual. A sign, a policy. Show me where that actually works, folks. I don't even have to say anything more on that because I'm preaching to the choir. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Dan touched on it earlier, gun violence. Okay, this one is just very special to me because for any English teachers, any other writers, anybody else know the lovely literary term personification? Anyone? Okay. It really bothers me because personification means to put human characteristics on what? Inanimate objects. Now, it works beautifully in literature, right? It's interesting, it's entertaining, it paints a beautiful picture, it makes for a lovely story. But there is no gun violence because that would be like saying there is hat violence. There's potato violence. I know, right? That's stupid. There's pen violence. Can someone injure or kill someone with a pen? Pen violence. We need common sense pen control. Same thing with the pools. We need common sense. No. No. I challenge all of y'all in this room today, now that you've heard it several times, if you hear that term, stand up against it and say there is no gun violence. Gun violence takes away the responsibility from the person who did the bad stuff and is putting it on an inanimate object, and I will not stand for that. Y'all, I've had liberal media call me, interview me, and I had literally a 3-hour conversation with this woman from the Trace. Anyone heard of that? Very liberal, anti-gun. 3-hour conversation with her, and she brought up gun violence, and we had a discussion, and y'all, she said, I have never once heard someone describe it that way. That is life-changing. She said it. Liberal media from the Trace told me. I had never thought of it that way. There are some logical left thinkers out there. There are. And I challenged her on that level, and she, now, every time she calls me about something else, she's like, okay, what if I call it this? You know, she's like conferring with me. I'm like, you can call it terrorist violence, criminal violence, human violence, as long as you're not taking away that responsibility and putting it on something that didn't do it. Here's another myth that goes hand in hand with that. Guns are designed to kill people. Okay, how many of you, by raising your hand, have a gun that fits that definition then? Your gun killed people. Oh, what? They're all malfunctioning. Take them all back. Take them all back. You walk into that gun store and say, this gun has not killed anybody, and the media tells me it was designed to kill, so I need a new one, or 2 or 3. It's a lemon. You got a lemon gun. Guns are not designed or created to kill people. That implies intent. What did we just talk about? Do guns have the intent to kill or hurt? No. Who has that? Me, person. Okay? So guns are not designed to kill. You know what they're designed to do? Launch a projectile. How many of you have firearms that launch projectiles? Great, now you're okay, we're on the right track then. Your guns are working properly. Mindset, words, very important. You gotta help me change the conversations that are out there, people. Because if we let that continue and we feed into that or we repeat it, who's gonna change the conversation? It's up to us. Okay, we have to change those conversations. Just a couple more myths, because I'm taking forever, we're almost out of time. How about this one? If you're deadly on the gun range, you'll be deadly in real life. Woo! Y'all, I was 5 yards away from a static paper target, and I shot a .22 with a grouping like this. Done. I can now defend myself in a life or death threatening scenario, right? Okay. So here's where the big challenge comes. If we are going to be responsible gun owners, we are truly going to stand for our Second Amendment. We need to be educated, informed, active. And by active, I don't mean just join the BamaCarry group. Go train. Do something. Be ready. Make yourself harder to kill. Deselect yourself from the process that criminals go through to pick a victim. Deselect yourself by being aware. Situational awareness. Planning ahead. Remembering that that gun on your hip is a last resort. Last resort. Do y'all want to shoot somebody? Do y'all want to, ask yourself, do I want to go to jail? Do I want to take someone's life, or do I want to lose my own? If the answer to any of those questions are yes, then you can probably use your gun. That makes sense? If the answer to any of those are no, well, why aren't you finding the nearest escape route? I'm just saying, think about it. And when I say train, y'all, there are so many options. By show of hands. You ready for this? By show of hands. I'm putting you on the spot intentionally. How many of you dry fire? Raise your hand, dry fire. Okay. Guess how much time and effort that takes? Do you have to go anywhere to dry fire? No. Do you have to find a safe direction? Yes. Do you have to get rid of all the ammo and make sure it's nowhere near? Yes. But that's about it. Dude, you can go around and take out every light switch in your house right now. and that is practice. You think I'm kidding? I've taken out every light switch in my house. Every one of them. I have, multiple times. Okay? How many of you, yes, show of hands, go to the range and you shoot? Keep your hands up if you shoot more than once a month. More than twice a month. Uh-oh. More than 3 times a month. Y'all look around the room. What just happened to the percentage on that? I realize it's hard to get to the range, believe me, you can put your hands down. I have 5 children at home. Oops, I have a husband, a dog, and 3 kids. Y'all, it can be done. I know this is what I do for a living, but it can be done. There are things you can do. You can read some of the awesome books out there too. Head knowledge, this is also good, okay? You can do shooting competitions. Anyone do competition shooting? Okay, now granted there are some training scars you'd have to worry about. But if you can't tell the difference between shooting a competition and shooting defensive pistol, maybe you shouldn't do either. I'm just saying, okay? I think you can figure it out though, but I challenge you. I'm gonna tell you, even though it's my job, even though I live this all the time, I still get challenged. I'm going next week to take classes. I'm taking another instructor course and this month, next month. But I'm gonna tell you one thing that made a huge difference. Ever been to a shoot house? Holy moly. Anyone read my article in the January edition of Concealed Carry magazine about this? I'm just gonna do it real quick because I'm over time, but y'all, listen to this. I was at Gunsight Academy. Y'all heard about that? Colonel Cooper's baby, right? He was kind of a cool guy, father of modern pistol craft and all. I had a rare and wonderful opportunity to train there. I'd never shot in a shoot house before, not an official one like this, with targets that looked like real people. Eek! Okay, now some of these real people were holding sunglasses, or beer bottles, or books. And some of these real people were holding guns or knives or other weapons. So imagine all this stress you have to go through the shoot house and in moments differentiate and figure out, is this a bad guy or is this just a bystander, just an innocent? Okay, whew, that's stressful enough as it is, right? Well, we went through that, but then on the very last day, it all became very real. The very last day, I was given the directive, Beth, you have just gotten home. Your loved one is in the house, but there's also trouble. And I'm like, okay, my heart's already racing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was really there. I was there. I'm like, I'm gonna take this seriously. I take my M&P off my hip. I do all the things that I'm supposed to do. I have to slice the pie. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Get out of the fatal funnel. All those kind of woo terms, right? Ooh, big, massive, important stuff, right? I'm going through that house. I'm clearing rooms. Of course, I don't highly recommend clearing rooms, but my loved one was in there, so I didn't have an option, right? If he had said, just go, there's bad guys, I would have been like, bye, I'm done. I would have called 911 and left, and my test would have been over, right? But what changed it all was loved ones in the house, right? So I'm going through room to room. I even had the presence of mind to look out the window, and lo and behold, there was a bad guy with a gun. I had to shoot him. I actually did a tactical reload. Kept going through the room, and I'm like, okay, can't even breathe. This is an overload of senses. I'm almost done though. I think I'm doing okay. I get to the last corner of the last room, and I'm peeking around doing what I'm supposed to do with slicing the pie. And I have my firearm ready to go, and I look, and I see another human target. And what are we trained to do? We look at the hands, right? Does this human bad guy, or is this human innocent? I look at his hands, and y'all, I never thought I would have any kind of reaction or any kind of experience like this before. I looked at that bad guy, and it's clear as day in my head right now as I speak. And I looked at his hands, and he had a gun to a little boy's head. And y'all, in that moment, that little boy looked just like my 7-year-old son. Just like him. Blonde, blue-eyed, Same age, same height, scared to death. Y'all, this is a paper target. And it had that kind of reaction. I have never felt so focused, scared, frustrated, determined in all my life, but I pushed that firearm out and I shot that bad guy in both eyes and the nose. And as soon as my RSO said, okay, we're done, holster your weapon, I lost it. I bawled. I could not stop crying, that ugly, awful, that kind of crying. And the guy's like freaking out. Are you okay, Beth? You did a great job. What's going on? I'm like, that's my son. The target looks just like my baby. And for a moment, he stopped too, never thinking it would have such an impact on someone. But y'all, all that did was prove why I do what I do. And why you need to do what you do. And why all of us stand unwavering, with no exception, no chipping away and no infringement on our natural God-given right to protect ourselves and the ones we love. Thank you for your attention today.
Okay, lunch is ready, and for some instruction right here, don't let everybody's stomachs growling.
Okay, if you will, just make your way out the doors, turn to the right, go down to the end of the hallway. The plates are already made. You can get your tea, whatever. Don't worry about the sauce, because we're going to be putting the sauce on the tables as you're going to eat.
By the way, your dessert today is provided by Bud's Best Cookies. A guy I met at a gun show, and he said, if there's anything I can ever do to help you guys, let me know and I'll bring you some cookies. And I said, just so happens, we have an event coming up, so that's who supplied our dessert for us. Lieutenant Colonel Willis Lee retired as the president of the National Federation of Republican Assemblies, and I hope he's coming down this way. There he is. He's a member of the National Rifle Association of America Board of Directors, serves on 5 committees on the Board of Directors for the American Conservative Union Foundation, a co-chairman of the Trump-Pence Second Amendment Coalition, a member of the Council for National Policy, and a member of the National Asian American Pacific Islander Conservative Leadership Caucus. That's quite a mouthful. Willis is a former Republican Party state chairman and Republican National Committee member, a founder of the Republican National Committee Conservative Caucus. He is a retired Army Airborne Ranger, Armored Combat veteran, U.S. Military Academy at West Point graduate, with degrees in engineering and public administration. Willis and his wife live in Virginia and attend Our Savior Lutheran Church. I'm going to tell you how Willis got up here. My phone rang, and I looked at it, and it said Hawaii. I said, you know, I ain't never got a call from Hawaii. There's a lot of calls I get, I don't answer. Do you do that? You just don't answer. But something said, you better answer this one. That was Willis on the other end. We've been friends ever since. Willis, come on up and talk with us. Y'all welcome Willis.
Movement. Beth is up here reading off her cell phone. Different generation. I got my papers up here. Look, thanks for having me down here. I've been in suits all this past week at an RNC meeting and a couple other events down in DC, so it is always fun to be outside of the Beltway with real people in real clothes doing real work, so thank you. Well, I can't say enough about what Eddie and BamaCarry's done, not just here in Alabama, but with a national voice, and it's important. And I get to see a lot of friends. Jim Ziegler's here. Jennifer Montrose and I work together in Republican assemblies. I am assuming, because everyone's here, that we are all Second Amendment supporters. Are there any folks here who are not conservatives? Because it's not the same thing. You can support Second Amendment and not be conservative. Thank you. I always do this though. Our law enforcement officers and military serving and military veterans, would you guys show yourselves, guys and gals, show who you are, let us know. Look at the numbers in the place. Thank you. Thanks for what you do. That's defending freedom. I may rely on this podium a little bit. I screwed my back up earlier in the week, and since then I've been to Pennsylvania for Great American Outdoor Show. I had a big event in D.C. I was at the RNC meeting. Just left Delaware and flew down here from D.C. because I'm a macho Army airborne ranger kind of crap. My wife says I'm an immature child who should be in bed right now. So I wasn't going to miss this opportunity, so thanks for having me. What I'd like to do, though, and prepare for this, because I'll ask afterwards, I'm going to save a couple minutes at the end, and we're going to do a lightning round. You guys don't often get NRA directors up here. You often have a lot to say about the NRA. So here's your chance. And we'll do a lightning round, but what I don't want to do is go and save a couple minutes and go, okay, what are your questions? And have you all look at me like you're looking at me now. So think of what your questions are, get ready for that. I am Willis Lee, I'm an Army brat, been doing the military all my life. So I grew up in Europe and then am a product of Virginia schools and living in Virginia. And before any of you dog on me, I've always been south of the Mason-Dixon, and Richmond was our capital. So, so as much as Virginia's changed, it's still the South. On the NRA board, a lot of our work gets done in committees. Now, so right now I'm fortunate to be on 5 different committees. They are all of a legislative nature or grassroots nature. So I'm on the Federal Affairs Committee, Local and State Policy Committee. I also do a lot of grassroots development, working on elections and campaigns. One of the committees I'm on, though, and this ties into this Asian American outreach thing I've gotten into, is our outreach committee. And to give you a sense of how much work can be fun, when I sit at the outreach committee, Sheriff David Clark is on my left, and Lieutenant Colonel Alan West sits to my right. And you sit there and you go, how much better for the Second Amendment can this be than to work with guys like that? The criticism that we often get in our different groups, and one of the reasons I'm here today is that we can't work together, that our movement is fragmented, that we argue too much between ourselves, and we argue a lot between ourselves. I don't think that's bad. In fact, I think it's good. Sometimes it gets us a lot of media that the mainstream guys won't cover unless we're arguing. But the bottom line is it means we're talking. My goal, because I come from a political background, not necessarily a shooting background, is an effort at teamwork among all of us. So I work with Gun Owners of America. I work with the Second Amendment Foundation. When you get to do this kind of stuff, you don't get humbled by a lot. Second Amendment Foundation at their GRPC this past year awarded me with the Defender of Freedom Award for last year, which naturally, just like the rest of us, I don't think I did anything. But it's humbling to know that between organizations, we can all work together to serve the Second Amendment and move our process forward. On the NRA, I am a little bit of an outlier. I'm a no-compromise guy, but I'm going to have to explain what that means to you because some people don't necessarily understand. The Second Amendment doesn't give me anything. The Second Amendment, and I heard this earlier, as Beth said, affirms our God-given right to self-defense. So a no compromise. My #1 legislative priority this year is national reciprocity. And I've said that. I refuse to compromise no matter what Cornyn and Schumer attach to that. So if they want to attach something like in this case, what they call fixed NICS, which isn't a fix, or anything else, my #1 goal is national reciprocity. So I don't have to go through the hassle I went through just to get from DC down here or from Pennsylvania through Maryland back to Virginia. And that's going to continue to be my goal for this year. I will tell you that the numbers don't necessarily look good. So we may not get it passed. We hope to have a vote sometime maybe in May. But at a minimum, we need to see that vote before the 2018 elections. Because we need to know who to take out of office come 2018. Our elections matter and what we went through here. So here, let me explain this to you. while I'm no compromise, what we have is what I call a squishy 5. We can't even have all of our Second Amendment lawsuits heard in the Supreme Court. Because while we say we have a majority, I call it a squishy 5. You can't count on all 5 of those votes. I consider what we have right now, out of the 60 I need, a soft 52. Oh, no, damn, 51, because Jones is now senator from Alabama. So we will continue to no compromise, but all of us, not just here in Alabama, across the nation, you got to give me 60 votes in the Senate. We get our 60 votes in the Senate, and we won't ever have to compromise. But until then, we got to work out deals with these guys. And on elections, who was I talking to? I think I was talking to Eddie in the lunch line today. I'm a product of a lot of what you all did last NRA election. And you know we're in the middle of an NRA election right now. We can shape the NRA board simply by all of our organizations voting. Now the kicker is, and we all vote because we understand the importance of politics. In an NRA election, typically only 7% of us vote. Then we spend the rest of the year bitching about why the board doesn't do this and doesn't do that. If all of our organizations, all of our members voted, we can shape the NRA board to be what we want it to be. So I'm encouraging all of you, if you haven't voted yet, it's in your magazine at home, or the magazine that you threw out. If you don't have a ballot, that means you're not a life member or haven't been a member of the NRA for 5 years, and you should be. And I'm not going to leave anybody out. I'm also life with GOA and Second Amendment and all that. But on the NRA, you get to have a say. And I need you to make that say and make it happen. Now, it has impacts wherever you support the Second Amendment. And I'll tell you, one of the big impacts here in Alabama, I'm assuming this is widely spread notion now. You guys know Kimber is opening their next factory. But they're not doing it as an add-on to their factory in New York. They're opening up here in Alabama, in Troy, because Alabama's a good state on the Second Amendment. That's the type of activity that we're going to look like, and that's why the benefit to us to be able to support these things. We have in BamaCarry, if you look at the size of your group that's here today, and I understand weather and flu kept some of the numbers down even. Normally it's even a bigger group. You got a lot of influence. We got state races coming up this year that you're going to have to be involved in. And a lot of times we're thinking that one vote, one voice doesn't have a say. I just finished an election in Virginia. You guys heard about this? Where it's decided by, in effect, a coin flip because it was tied. This one vote matters. And it wasn't really a coin flip. They drew a name out of a hat. Those are the kind of elections that we're going to be involved with in 2018 and going forward. Because it's getting nasty out there. We all know this because antis have been nasty towards us all this time. Now we got an opportunity to make a difference and we have to go out and do that. I am leaving here this afternoon. I'm also on the board, as Eddie mentioned, of the American Conservative Union Foundation. In a week we host our annual CPAC. You guys have heard of that now it's in Maryland on the outskirts of DC. Huge conservative gathering. That's one of those bucket list items, just like the NRA annual meeting. If you haven't been to one, this year we're going to Dallas, try and make one of those. And then this fall, we'll be in GRPC with Second Amendment Foundation. We're going to be in Chicago, which is just an interesting one because obviously none of us are carrying in Chicago, but we're going straight into the middle of blue land. And you can't get any more blue than that. So those are the type of activities we're trying to get. For each of you, because I don't get out of the Beltway a lot. Eddie's got my contact information. It's willis.lee@gmail. And by all means contact. You can follow me on Facebook, Willis Lee NRA, and I'm on Twitter and all this kind of stuff. But I'll encourage you across the board, get on social media. This is the medium that folks are using today, and as much as possible, depending on your generation, take advantage of social media. And I say that because when I came home last year, I finally got on Facebook. And I've been very proud that I'm actually on social media. My daughters looked at me and went, "Dad, that's so old school. Nobody does Facebook anymore." So part of it's being to keep up, but I'm encouraging you, all of BamaCarry and all of our political efforts, get onto social media. So what I want to do now is throw this up in a speed round here, lightning round. Ask away. I like shooting big guns. You know, I'm an armor officer, so 120 millimeter smoothbore cannon is pretty cool. I've got 250 scuba dives, run 5 marathons. My family's off limits, some security reasons, other reasons. But other than those, if you have questions about the NRA, let's see. I was a state boxing commission chairman for 6 years, if you can get a hold of that one. So here we go. If we got them, you want to set them up? Okay, please.
Yes, name's David Blackman.
Thanks, David.
On the national reciprocity and the NRA stance, I know that from California to Alabama, there's a lot of different views on that. When we get down to this bargaining chip, is Alabama going to have to give up some of its freedoms that we have now to compromise toward California? Because I, for one, don't want to see Alabama give up anything to move toward California.
Yeah, thanks, David. No, in fact, the bill is written so that we're even going to get more. But nobody's taking from Alabama. I think, if anything, Alabama or excuse me, our constitutional carry states would be the optimum. And that's the direction we're going. That's what all of us wants, and that's the direction that we'll go. Right now, though, with the current bill, in effect, it simply affirms that states, you have to obey the Second Amendment. So states will still be able to put a lot of their own measures in it, but they won't be able to restrict from Alabamans from doing what they do going across state lines. Now, I still have some issues, and there's a difference in the way, at least with the House bill, and just let me expound on this a second. The way Hudson has written it, North Carolina congressman, it says that if you have a resident permit, a permit from your state, you can carry nationally. And he contends that what he meant and what it means is if you have a permit, you can carry nationally. Well, for a long time, I had a non-resident permit because I work out of Hawaii, so I had a non-resident Virginia permit. That would exclude me. Now, that doesn't stop me from fighting for national reciprocity, and now I have a Virginia permit. But that's one of my issues with the current bill that's moving through.
In the back with us.
One more, I'm told.
First, commercial drivers out here, we travel all over the country. We really need this national register. But those of us going into the ports, we're not allowed to carry weapons into the ports. I've written Jeff Sessions, never got an answer back on it. What are we supposed to do? I mean, we can't protect ourselves. Can't carry a gun because if we go into ports, you know, we can be arrested for bringing them on the ports. It's federal property.
Thanks for your question. And for those, especially with the places we can't carry, and that's part of what we have to change, and part of the emphasis and why elections matter. And we're going to have to push that. A similar item to that I am pushing through the Military and Veterans Affairs Committee at the NRA. We just have to show of hands for all the veterans here. So when I'm carrying around town and I decide, I'm a retired guy, oh, I need something from the PX or I need to go by the commissary, you can't carry on to a federal facility. And that's a problem. Compounded by the fact that if you've just gone through 3 states in your rig, well, now you are armed. What do I do with this when I get to the port? Where do I put it? So those are all changes that'll come, and that's what we're looking at. But the start is reciprocity. And we've never gotten this close to being able to carry across the nation. I'm like the rest of you, the government shouldn't be involved in our lives, but damn, they are. And they've been involved in our lives since 1934. So we have to take some of it back, but I will tell you once again, the only way we take it back is with those 60 votes. Now, that doesn't mean they all have to be 60 Republicans or even 60 Second Amendment. That just means we got to convince 60 of them to get us through what they call cloture, to debate the bill. And sometimes that means bringing Democrats on because they're getting traded something else. So we're not done with this, we're still working it, but the first step now, and the closest we've ever been and the best place we've ever been in, is national reciprocity. Regardless, and I'm telling you, regardless of what the antis want to attach to. So with that, I think I'm done. Eddie, thank you for having me here. All of you, thank you for what you do for the Second Amendment and your support for the Second Amendment. God bless you. Thank you.
All right, this next guy's name, well, we just call him Peter the Patriot. Have y'all seen him today? Had your picture made with him? Shame on you. He'll be right over here right after the break. He hails us from Jacksonville, Alabama, believes in preserving true American history through studying, which started at the age of 17. He did a high school history project for his homeschool group on the Second Amendment and the Constitution. After seeing the reactions of the viewers and judges and the interest they showed in his project and Minuteman attire, he was further inspired to look into our American history at its founding. And is a good inspiration at 22 years old. I wish we had more guys like him. Since then, you can see him in the town square in Jacksonville on patriotic days, and he's been nicknamed Peter the Patriot. He also gives speeches and presentations at schools, churches, and patriotic events. In 2016, he was awarded the Bronze Good Citizenship Medal from the Chehaw chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution in recognition of notable services on behalf of our American principles. Please give a hearty welcome to Peter the Patriot.
First, I'd like to say that I'm a proud, homeschooled, heterosexual, pro-gun, pro-life, conservative Christian in America. April 18th, 1775, in the town of Boston of the colony Massachusetts, the Sons of Liberty informed the Midnight Riders by the names of Paul Revere, Samuel Prescott, and William Dawes that the British were planning to take military action by advancing their troops to the towns of Lexington and Concord to seize and destroy the colonists' stored munitions. These men, the Midnight Riders, rode out warning the countryside of Massachusetts that the British were coming. The next day, April 19th, 1775, the militia were gathered together on Lexington Green, waiting for the British regulars' arrival. A historic event was about to take place by the firing of one shot, which would later become known as the shot heard round the world. Britain was one of the most powerful empires of its time. With the crown's disciplined troops and wealth, they were no easy enemy for the Americans to face in war. The muskets and weapons that the Patriots had been so long forging were ready to be efficiently used in this arduous struggle for liberty. The world was watching to see who would be the victor. John Parker, the commander of the militia, told his men to stand your ground. Don't fire unless fired upon. But if they mean to have war, let it begin here. The British commander told the militia to lay down their arms and disperse, but they stood their ground. All of a sudden, a shot rang out, which nobody knows who fired to this day. The British troops, without giving official order, opened fire onto the militia, killing several. The militia retreated, meeting the British again on the same day at the Old North Bridge in Concord, Massachusetts. Both sides were given the official orders by their leading officer to fire upon each other, which officially started the War for Independence. The American men who fought these battles were not professional soldiers, but rather the armed citizen. These patriots are not only ready to defend their families, homes, and friends, but to take action on the approaching foe against their rights to bear arms and to worship the Lord freely. Firearms are a necessity for physical defense, as we have recently seen on November 5th, 2017, during the massacre at the First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, Texas, when the armed citizen took action, stopping the shooter. The Founding Fathers and Patriots loved this land and its unique form of government for the people, acknowledging the Lord's providential hand in the war for independence and the making of this great nation. The Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, with the Bill of Rights, document facts like God the Father as the ultimate divine giver of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which should be pleasing to Him. He is the one who instituted government to restrain and punish evil men while protecting and upholding what is naturally good. They knew that the patriots must have a physical defense and a deep understanding in the Lord's Word for spiritual and moral defense in order to secure this nation's future for generations to come. It can all be summed up with this: good people equal good government. Socialists, which are sugar-coated communists, will always seek to corrupt our government and people so they may follow through with the stripping away of the Bible and our right to bear arms. It is evident through the history of other nations that they are truly history. John Adams, our second president, once said, "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other." Francis Scott Key, the author of our national anthem, said, "The patriot who feels himself in the service of God and acknowledges Him in all his ways has a promise of almighty direction, and will find His word in his greatest darkness, a lantern to his feet and a lamp unto his paths. He will therefore seek to establish for his own country, in the eyes of the world, such a character as shall not make her unworthy the name of a Christian nation." George Washington, our first official president, said in his farewell address, "Of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, morality and religion are indispensable supports." The fundamentals of America and its government come from the knowledge and understanding of the Bible. The first pilgrims to settle here in the year 1620 gave God thanks for this land and their newfound freedom to worship Christ freely. The Founding Fathers looked to the Lord God Almighty for direction during both the war and the making of the Constitution. This nation was blessed because of our past leaders looking to the benevolent Creator. We must look to Him as well, so this blessing may not be lost. Noah Webster, the composer of the American Dictionary of English Language, taking him some 22 years to compile, was a man of God. He said, "In my view, the Christian religion is the most important and one of the first things in which all children under a free government ought to be instructed. No truth is more evident to my mind than that of the Christian religion must be the basis of any government intended to secure the rights and freedoms of the people, of a free people." Noah Webster believed that the English language must be preserved by understanding the definitions and usage of words, so America may prosper while encouraging Christianity as the core for the fundamentals for the true American way of life. As previously mentioned, the Founding Fathers believed that morality and religion have their key role in America for preserving our freedoms. Here are the definitions of moral and religion from Noah Webster's dictionary in the year 1828. Moral, relating to practice, manners, or conduct of men as social beings in relation to each other, and with reference to right and wrong. The word moral is applicable to actions that are good or evil, virtuous or vicious, and has a reference to the law of God as the standard by which their character is to be determined. Now, the definition of religion. Religion, in its most comprehensive sense, includes a belief in the being and perfections of God, in the revelation of his will to man, in a state of reward and punishment, and in man's accountableness to God, and also true godliness or piety of life with the practice of all moral duties. It therefore comprehends theology as a system of doctrine or principles, as well as practical piety for the practice of moral duties, without a belief in a divine lawgiver and without reference to his will or commands, is not religion. With me today, I have an original copy of Noah Webster's elementary school book from the year 1804. It was the standard of learning for over 100 years in America. I would like to read to you a brief section from the chapter titled Moral Catechism Questions. What is moral virtue? What is moral virtue? It is an honest, upright conduct in all our dealings with men. Can we also determine what is honest and just? Perhaps not every instance, but in general, it is not difficult. What rules have we to direct us? God's Word, contained in the Bible, has furnished all necessary rules to direct our conduct. In what parts of the Bible are these rules to be found? In almost every part. But the most important duties between men are summed up in the beginning of Matthew on Christ's Sermon on the Mount. What has Christ said respecting the virtue of humility? He has said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Poorness of spirit is humility, and this humble temper prepares a man for heaven, where all is peaceable and love." What is the reward of the peacemaker? He shall be called blessed and called the child of God. The mild, peaceable, friendly man resembles God. What an amiable character is this, to be like our Heavenly Father, that lovely, perfect, and glorious being, who is the source of all good, is to be the best and happiest of men. The men of the Revolutionary War and the writers and signers of the Constitution had a common knowledge and understanding of the Bible that led the way for this great nation. In the Word of God, it says that every good and every perfect gift is from above and comes down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation of shadow of turning. Our land, our God-given rights, and the men who documented them and fought for them are all truly good gifts. The men who signed the Declaration of Independence, knowing that they and their families were at great risk of death for committing high treason against King George III, and the patriots displaying their gallantry in battle, are some of the finest heroes in America. The NFL players who refuse to stand for our national anthem, with the people who applaud them for their actions, and the constant Hollywood celebrities who are against our rights to bear arms, though they themselves have armed bodyguards, and patriotism in general, are shameful to the original patriots, our founding fathers, our veterans, our military, our police, our firemen, our land, and to you. They are not true heroes, nor Americans, but only a disgrace, lacking everything worth celebrating. Being American is not limited to merely being born here, but it is having the ideals, principles, and vigor as these patriots did. So then, let us reflect on and recognize these great heroes as we tell the stories to our children of the battles they fought. From Lexington Green and the Old North Bridge, to the signing and unanimous passing of the Declaration of Independence, to the crossing of the Delaware River with General Washington and the brave troops with him, from the high seas with John Paul Jones defeating the enemy ship, the Serapis, as his own ship was sinking, telling the British officer, "I have not yet begun to fight," to the Swamp Fox of South Carolina and his elusive militia, taking on large numbers of the enemy, and to the closing of the war on the victorious battlefield of Yorktown, Virginia. Let the patriotic flame that adorned the patriots' hearts burn in ours as well, as we preserve and be ready to defend this land, the Constitution, and our liberties from both foreign and domestic enemies, while having an understanding of the Bible's rightful place in our nation. We often look at our government structure without knowing or studying, and often neglecting the sturdy foundation it's built upon. We must not become lax in this. In the Bible, James 1:25 says, "But the one who looks intently into the perfect law of liberty and continues in it, and is not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this one will be blessed in what he does." My friends, I will leave you with these parting words. When we come to our final resting place, will we have a regret of how we lived the life the Lord gave to us? Or will we have a common peace in our last moments on this earth, remembering the Lord's amazing grace with the acceptance of Jesus as our Savior, while thanking Him for the life He allowed us to live? Will we live an exemplary life, looking to the Lord of hosts above, as many of the founding fathers and patriots did, for the preservation of this outstanding land? Will the flame of patriotism pass on to the next generation with the knowledge and understanding of the Holy One, as these men hoped? Or will the flame be extinguished, never to be relit again, because the foundation has been compromised? The answer to this question lies within you. Thank you.
You married? I got a daughter. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Mine's already married. Okay, we're going to take a little quick break right here, about 10 or 15 minutes, and we'll come back. We're going to draw for the gun drawing, and let's see who's coming next. Sheriff Mike Hale. Hey, Sheriff, he made it. Will be speaking to us.
Moments for the Second Amendment. Please make welcome Sheriff Mike Hale. Honor it is to be with my BamaCarry friends. Give yourself a hand, please. I have a big lesson today, and I have the utmost respect for all of my my colleagues over here running for statewide office. I can get around Jefferson County pretty good. And you know, every time you put an address or you do something in your iPhone, and you know, sometimes it's just not right. Well, I found out the Jasper Civic Center is not out there by Smith Lake today. I swear it took me out there, and it did like it may have done y'all. It was out in the middle of nowhere, and it says your destination is on the right. Honest to goodness, I just passed the Drummond Road. I looked around, and there was nothing there. I called my wife at home, who's trying to pack for a DC trip, and she got so frustrated that she gave me the address to the Civic Center. I said, I just give up. This is a big deal to me. I tell you, she's gonna whip me when I get home. Because she, you know, I tried to call her back, she's not even answering my phone calls. I got my grandson, he answered the phone, I said, holler for Nana. He says, Papa, I don't think I should do that. So I've got a decision to make. Do I go in hot and armed, or do I just go in, do I go in asking for mercy? I'm thinking I'm saying I was wrong, you were right, and please forgive me, baby. I learned a long time ago, it's better to be happy. I think I'm going to tell her how right she was. No, it is an honor to be here. I just express my appreciation to Eddie and to Billy for drawing me in so close to BamaCarry, and really giving me an opportunity to succeed, giving me an opportunity to stand up for things that we believe in. I just don't think I've done anything special when, quite frankly, when the Second Amendment is an inalienable right given to us by Almighty God, I don't know what else we need to. I think that's finished, stamped, over and done with, but evidently I've got to keep explaining to my colleagues things about, and just standing up for things that I believe in, that I truly believe that a pistol license is an infringement upon that. I haven't always been like that. I did come in, honestly, in 1998, when a former sheriff had raised the pistol license to $20 in Jeffco, and I just knew that wasn't right. I remember what my uncle, Mel Bailey, had said, and he was a Democrat, but he was just a solid, good man. Well, heck, everybody was a Democrat then, but he said, I want to be the cheapest in the country. And I really believe Melvin was a Second Amendment guy, and he was doing some things. If you go back to 1993, 1991, what you stand for right here, right now, today was not as visible and not as vocal as it was then. Yeah, sure, the NRA was out there, and that's good. I think the things that BamaCarry and the membership of BamaCarry, probably approaching 20,000 statewide, is really in a position to flex their muscle and to stand up for what's right. I was at a group the other night, and it does matter. I was with a group the other night. I was speaking to a worship security forum hosted by the NCAA. NAACP, excuse me, NAACP, not NCAA. I'm so sorry. I was in Bethel Baptist, and Representative Wandlin Gavan invited me, and she has quite a following out there. I was on a panel with District Attorney's Office, a couple of consultants that had come through the Birmingham school system that was, well, they were there to make a buck, and that's fine. I think to go over the security of the church, and if you're skilled at doing that, just remember the schools went through a real growth structure with that 1% tax in Jeffco, so now there's agencies like mine that have school resource officers. We were able to impact the building of new school, yada, yada, yada. She's retired from the school system, and now she's trying to make a buck. Gave some great tips. I was up there, they invited the chief of police of Birmingham, but he sent a robber detective. And that's great. I mean, heck, I thought it was important enough for me to be there. Had a lot of friends there. Wall to wall, just like this, different setting, Bethel Baptist Church. And, you know, you can imagine what the district attorney said. You can imagine, I was kind of shocked at what the officer said. The officer said, nobody should be carrying guns. I reached over to Danny Carr and I said, look, I don't feel like that, Danny, and I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings, but I'm gonna tell it like it is. And so I got my chance up there, and what I'm telling you, it's a group of worshipers of just like me, just like you, First Baptist, Second Baptist, First Methodist, it doesn't matter. They were concerned. They were concerned like we are concerned, like everybody's concerned about what to do in our churches on a Sunday. Are we going to let it be a killing field? What is the responsibility of the pastor? Should the pastor be armed? They really asked me that question. There was a lot of debate. What responsibility does the pastor have? I said, well, I guess certain pastors could be or should be armed, but not knowing what they're armed with, if it's the Word of God, I think the responsibility of the pastor is this, is to make sure they're up on current events, which is what happened in Texas, which is all sorts of people come to a church meeting, and all are not good. We need to be as wise as serpents and harmless as doves. I think the role of the pastor is to encourage a conversation with those in his church, the board of deacons, the board of whatever, to find that officer, that corrections officer, that retired officer, to form a security committee, work out a plan. Well, I do, and I do, and I gave that officer who was really kind of reeling from my comments of, no, I think it is okay to be armed. And I got a thunderous applause. But then I gave him something back. I said, look, you tell them that the security plan of any church, whether we are, ever since Columbine, we are not waiting for the SWAT team to come. That's from Jasper to Birmingham, from Cincy to Mountain Brook. We're not waiting for the SWAT team to come. If it's got a guy driving by that we know we can vouch for him like they did out in Texas. Now seriously, if it's a policeman, a deputy, a security man, and if we're armed, we're forming that diamond and we're going in after the shooter. That's what the security plan ought to be in those churches. That's what they ought to train for. And I believe that's solid advice. And the advice we gave everybody else leaving is take note. What kind of weapons? What kind of people? How many? Descriptions. Be calling in 911 with that information. Long story short, I told you where I was. I told you who's on the panel. Most of the questions went to me. Do you know why they went to me? They needed somebody in a position of authority to tell that group, the 350, 400 people, it was okay to be armed. You're not doing anything wrong. Of course I got the question, 25 years ago, I did this and I can't be armed. I said, well, you know what? You can appeal that. You may want to consider pepper spray or a taser. I mean, if you've done something wrong and you can't be armed, you're not going to get me in the heat of the moment and say it's okay. I mean, if you've done something that you can't purchase a gun, I just hang out with somebody who can protect me. I don't have the answer. I've been an auxiliary member of BamaCarry. Anyway, that could have shook me because of the crowd. But don't you understand? Everybody in the crowd that I was at, and this was like a random survey. This is a random survey. You are a random survey of what's right with Alabama. This was a random survey of a community, an urban community that has been told, and they were told in front of me, you can't carry a gun. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's not wrong.
Amen.
It's a cultural thing that BamaCarry has crossed over and has deep roots in, and you believe in. And I'm just so proud that I've been associated with you. I want to try to get back on track with some notes that I brought. And I want to talk about somebody that's in this room here. Yes, I've had a few run-ins with some of my colleagues. And one of the things, while I'm trying to bring this up, when people are making excuses about why people should have permits, they always fall back on, well, you gotta have a permit, we gotta have a permit to have it, so we can do something in a car that protects us. A permit protects a police officer in a car? It makes them more safe? I submit to you this. Stay with me on this. Don't need a permit to have a gun. Never had to have a permit to have an assault weapon. Well, you kind of had to have a permit with ATF to have scope and some silencer and stuff like that. But let's just say it's just a regular shotgun rifle or whatever. Gun, pistol, bought at a gun show, got it from Grandpa, don't know how to use it. I got one in every room. I've got locks on them. I ain't got locks on them. You know the whole thing. That's what my deputies run into every day when they go into a house, right? Multi-plans, multi-floor plans, it's hidden. They're in the closet. My deputies answer domestic violence calls in your homes in the community that they don't know where guns are. And they're not crying and calling for a permit. You need to have a permit in your home. Never has been. Even at the height, the permit's rising. Never said, well, you know what, we better have a permit in a home. And never said that, have we?
Don't give me any idea.
Can you tell me, am I putting my deputies in harm's way by taking the view a permit is not needed in a vehicle? A permit is right in front of them. It's self-contained. We know where to look. And we know how to be on guard. But Jefferson County deputies know how to take care of business. That is not an issue. But what the issue is and Alice Martin, I hope I'm not going to get you in trouble. But she is a dear, dear friend. She believed me when I said, go talk to Billy Denton. Go talk to the BamaCarry folks. They carry a lot of clout statewide. And it doesn't matter who she was talking to. I know who she was talking to, and I know what she was talking about. She was debating the issue of licenses, concealed carry licenses. Alice Martin, respectfully to my law enforcement colleagues, I prosecuted hundreds of 18 U.S.C. 922G felon possession, 5 years mandatory minimum federal time cases for law enforcement. Yes, you have, and thank you. Listen to this. That's pretty expert. What I don't hear answered is how a permit is not an infringement. Defending the Constitution is also a critical component to public safety. I think she needs a round of applause. From the bottom of my heart, Alice, you have seen it. A lot of criminals up close and prosecuted them. And for you to put in such legal ease, in legal terms, what I felt in my heart, I knew was right. I stumbled around the issue and you went to the heart of the issue in a paragraph. And I'm just saying, well done, I believe in you, and thank you. This lady right here has helped what BamaCarry is trying to do. And anybody that believes that owning a gun is okay, that it's a God-given right, and a very, 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 very limited government intrusion. I think on the front end of a purchase is about the only thing I think is going to be proper. But in any case, thank you, Alice. Thank you. There's another thing out there, and I know my Jefferson County deputies, I know them, and I think most of the sheriff's deputies across the state of Alabama. The opponents of what you stand for and what I believe in will say, well, what about the mental health issue? Look, good folks in this room can go through a divorce, can suffer an injury, can get hooked on opioids, painkillers. Your life can change, my life can change, like my life's going to change this afternoon if I don't do it. I swear I'm going to do right. It can change in a moment. Death of a spouse, death of a child, death of somebody can get you in a bad situation with your mental state. That you may not be part of a faith family, you just start going downhill and you get into a real mental situation. There could be times that you are a danger to yourself. And I trust my deputies, and I trust what they hear from family. And it may be a temporary solution to remove guns from that type person's house for a period of time. And I don't have any problem doing that, and my deputies don't, because at the end of the day, we're peacekeepers of the community. So that's a subjective decision. It could be a legal decision with probate court involved, but I'm telling you, in the heat of the battle, in domestic violence, there are things like my middle son was a professional baseball umpire. Sometimes you just got to make the right call at the time. Sometimes you got to help somebody help themselves and not hurt themselves, and the deputies will do that. Look, I've given back guns and ammo and things like that after a period of time, and hadn't had anybody tell me to when the proper time. I'm not saying that's perfect, but I'm saying this, that we do take our role as peacekeepers. We take it seriously every day. Certainly if that person feels that strong about that we're trying to protect for themselves, temporarily feels that strong and gets the judge to order me to do it, we're going to comply with it. But I hope that's not offensive to you. But we do get in situations. We do get in situations from time to time out there. I want to tell you, thank you to, and I thanked them before, but I want to tell you why I'm thanking them. I've been trained for over 40 plus years to carry a firearm. Like many of y'all, grew up around it. I didn't grow up around it, but I was 21, and so I'm 66 now, so I guess I've really grown up around the issue of when I feel about going into some place I need to carry a gun. I've been used to carrying a gun. And I am so glad that Amy Parrish and Billy Denton came into my life, because I've gotten to train my wife through BamaCarry, who's a member. I've gotten to train my daughter-in-law, Farrah, who's a member. And Billy, I want to tell you, I don't know what y'all teach out there, but when I tried to tell my daughter-in-law to carry a little Ruger, that was okay. She said, I'm not going to have anything to do with that. But the cheapest I'm going to go is a Glock. Thank you, buddy. Thank you for that. Cost more money. Now she said, Mama said, who's Dominican, from Dominican Republic, she said, I'm not going with no cheapo like you. I'm going with a Glock. Look, 2 grandsons. One Alabama Power, one works all over this city. It's a funny thing now, when you're going out the door, love it. You got your keys, you got your coat, you armed up? Yes, sir, Pawpaw. And what I like about it is they got some good common sense training and self-confidence from Billy and Amy. Mike, you were out there. Mike Cole, thank you. And I appreciate that. So my family's safer because of it. I tell them in jest now, I say, if we go to a meeting and we're stormed, I count the number of rounds my family has, I said, there better be 28 or 29, there better be that many rounds in self-defense going for us. I think I probably told you how I've rethought this, my position on the Second Amendment. It started, like I said, it started with not a full understanding of it being a God-given right, and the Constitution really supported that. But I was able to take what I'd done as a young sheriff, and I got to take what Billy and BamaCarry had talking to me. I got to stand up in front of my colleagues face to face and argue with them about it. And I got to meet people like Alice Martin along the way that really, I thought about what she did under Attorney General Luther Strange and really identifying the strength of the law where you could open carry. I just found that phenomenal. So it's really been a growth thing to me. And I can't tell you how, I say this over and over, I can't tell you how much BamaCarry, what you stand for, has influenced me, and what I knew was there but didn't know was there. So I want you to give yourself a hand for influencing an old sheriff like me, please. I may occupy a position of authority. And first of all, let me just tell you, Representative Ainsworth, some of you BamaCarry folks were down there when I was testifying. What committee was that? Public Safety. It wasn't funny, really. You know, it's kind of funny, Representative, and Billy will tell you this, I had really, and Eddie, there was a time y'all didn't have really the manners that the State House needed.
I think.
Y'all are just kind of vocal. And I told Eddie, I told Billy, I said, look, we can disagree, but we can't be disagreeable. Well, hell, in that meeting, your colleagues were disagreeable, weren't they? And they were, they were really jumped. Oh, well, it's okay, I'm pretty tough skin, but Representative, you defended me and what I stood for and what the BamaCarry folks believe in, and I appreciate you, and I want you guys to appreciate me. Representative Ainsworth, thank you. Stand up, guys. I'm going to end on this. Outside of, I've really enjoyed my day today, the tour of Walker County. I especially enjoyed Billy saw me jogging in the rain and stepped out, like I ain't got the mud off his shoes yet. But you know what, I do something real simple, I hope you do it too. And probably when you're under stress, I just do a few things. Jesus, I need your help. And Jesus, I trust you.
Amen.
And from that point on, I met Billy at the door, I got cleaned up, and I just had a wonderful time telling thank you to my friends. But I want to leave you with this, and I want to challenge you with this. These folks that are traveling statewide, I told Alice early on, and Representative Ainsworth, I'll tell you this. I believe that this is the foremost Second Amendment godly group that is approaching 20,000 voters in the state of Alabama. And I believe they're going to flex their muscle, and I believe they're going to put some great folks in office. I really do that. But what I'm asking you for specifically, and I will end on this, in Jefferson County, Jefferson is a purple county. I'm not going to take anything for granted. I don't have any Republicans on my side. I got 4 gun control folks on the other side. And I'm just asking you to get involved. Let your voices be heard. Let your friends know that not only your sheriff, Tommy Day, you vouch for me. Old boy from Woodlawn. I believe in keeping neighborhoods and communities safe. I believe in being part of the community. And I believe I never forget people who are nice to me. And I love what you guys do. And I've always got your back. Thank you and God bless you.